Hello and welcome to HolisticCircle podcast, Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We are reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love and joy. And today from wonderful Australia, Josh Tynan. No, I said it wrong. No, it's Tynan.
Perfect. You nailed it the first time and stuffed it the fourth time. That's perfect.
You maybe don't know that, but people just watch my podcast to hear me pronounce the names wrong of the guests.
They got what they came for.
Yeah, now everybody's turning off now. So now it's just you and me talking because I got out the introduction bit and I was...
Happy days. I'm sure we'll be right.
Right, so you're originally from Australia, you're a true Australian, and I can see this lovely wooden cabinet back there. I see a lot of light coming in and ventilation, so I'm already having a bit of a holiday moment just watching your background. It looks, I'm already, my blood pressure is going down. So that's the wonderful thing why I love having guests from Australia on my podcast. And you are, I think, the biggest or second biggest group on my podcast, Australians.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah. And why do you think that is?
Can't say. I'm trying to, also Canadians also, very strong.
Yeah.
So there seems to be a lot of spirituality going on.
Yeah.
I think we should start with the podcast. Good stuff's coming. First of all, I always like to open the podcast with inviting my guests to give a small couple of minutes self-introduction. Who you are, what you do, what's your background, whatever you feel like sharing. Let's take it from there.
No worries. So I'm from Australia, currently living in Queensland. I am on your podcast, not necessarily because I am a professional in any way, shape or form or have any academic achievements as such as many of your other guests have had. I pretty much am here as me and you connected in just our intrigue for reality and kind of the contemplations that come with it, spirituality and just reflecting on the self and trying to just having more of a passionate type of intrigue in how, what humans seem to be here for and how our source plays through the human experience and all the contemplations that come with it.
Awesome. That's a perfect podcast. I'm so happy. Couldn't be more thrilled because is it fair enough to call you first and foremost at this point in your life a seeker?
Yep, that's pretty much nail on the head.
Couldn't be better. Because I guess half of the audience that's watching us right now would just totally identify with you, because I think that would be the prime reason to watch my podcast in the first place, because we ask the big questions. I go on my knees and I start my morning prayer and go something like this. To whom it may concern, I hope we will never find the answer. Please don't make me ever see the light, because I enjoy the search. I enjoy reading more books and talking to more people. And if I would ever get all the answers, what purpose would it have to continue asking the questions? So
very much.
Welcome, friend.
Yeah. No, it's really a funny polarity that you just spoke about, because fundamentally that's exactly what's taking place. It's the poetry in forgetting just to remember. Source shares itself in order to express itself, in order to find itself and to bring awareness to itself. But without separation, which is, I guess, the ego is the individual experience, then you don't experience separation. And if you don't experience separation, then how do you understand oneness? So I guess it's, as you're saying, it's alchemy 101, fundamentally. I guess you look at any form of philosophy that stood the test of time, I guess it comes down to know thyself. It comes with a Kabbalion is all is mind, all is mental. Everything's, I think the more that you pay attention to how reality seems to...
We have somebody in the background.
Yep, she says hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. He says, welcome to the podcast. She says, thank you.
All right.
Yeah. But yes, I think when you start to pay attention to yourself, which fundamentally that's how it takes place, because you're the individual having the experience, and eventually you might have experiences that shake your world, and eventually you have a bit of a contemplation where you're like, is this happening to me or is it happening for me? If you're watching and you're listening and you're feeling, then that starts to unravel. If I thought it happened to me, then everything derives from the philosophy of the ego that says life is hard and you have to fight and everything's a battle and you got to pull yourself up from your bootstraps and so on and so forth, and all these little one-liners that we end up, that become belief systems and coping mechanisms and ancestral patterns and cycles, collective unconscious and all this jazz. And you realize it's just programming. So if it's just programming, where's the computer? And if you realize that there's a computer and a program and we are the projector projecting the projections, then you really start to go, what's real?
It would get slippery.
All right, continue.
First of all, I can see where this is going, and I'm looking forward for going deeper and having this. But you know what? I started this podcast because I had many of the thoughts that you have, most probably, or like most of our audience had. And I was wandering through the world, and I would maybe once a year, twice a year, meet someone who's, and you have, as you said, you open a bottle of wine and you have a whole night long conversation, and you just don't want it to stop because there's so many things going through your mind and you don't have so many people you can share it with, because these metaphysical, spiritual thoughts, they're not for everyone. How is this for you? Do you have community where you can share regularly? Are you also missing the good conversations? How does this manifest in your life?
I think for me, I don't actually have a community at all in that sense. I think I'm where what you were talking about. Even like me having this conversation with you is a big step for me, in the sense of, I feel like, so for example, I used to do like bathroom renovations, and I used to work for myself as a tiler doing bathroom renovations. My mum always used to say I was a full-time psychologist and a part-time tiler, because you would end up striking up conversation with people because you're there for a week and a half or something like this, and you become a part of the furniture and they desire to ask you for a coffee or a tea, and I think then that starts to, even that in itself, I started to realize that people didn't ask you for a cup of tea because you wanted a cup of tea. They just wanted to offer it because for them. And then eventually when I realized, because I always used to say, oh, I'm good, thank you. And then I realized this, and then I'd start saying yes. And next minute, I feel like what I understood then was like how powerful listening is.
You don't.
Zero community.
You're more than ever on the subject, because that's the good part.
Yeah. I don't have a community as yet. I've pretty much, like, my life has shifted tremendously, and I think I'm 100% in the space of waiting for, or watching the clouds kind of part and waiting for that next path to unveil itself. And so in some way, I think it might be interesting for people that listen to your podcast where they may feel the same, where I feel like sometimes, like, especially with social media and the people that, podcast as guests and all the rest, it's like people have already found their niches and they're doing their things and they're saying, this is how you're successful, and here's a 3-minute get rich quick scheme or a 3-minute manifesting your dreams. And I think in some sense, I'm probably the guest I've got no idea what I'm doing, and I'm trying to uncover my way, and that's my realness and it's not my authenticity, because that's what I'm trying to unravel at the moment more and more. But yeah, here I am.
And it's so fascinating, because this is one of the themes that right now is driving me a lot in the conversations I'm having. So many people searching for community, and then you wonder why there's not a place for us, a place that is not ideological or without a crazy subscriptions theme or some kind of bizarre guru trying to push something on us.
My personal opinion, which, it's just my perspective. It's where we all have our perspectives. But to say that the light is gone is also what's the word? It's like a profile of your own perspective. And so, for example, I met a guy in Sweden while I was racing, and he was one of his most favorite people in the world was a guru. You may know his name, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was like a very well-known guru. And he was saying, like, he read all his books and watched all his YouTube clips and all these, and he was like, I don't understand why there is duality, because the guru is like, everything is one. And like, it comes back to what we were talking about at the start. If we don't have duality, then how do you have the experience of understanding oneness? That in the vastness of separation, nothing is separate to itself. It's of itself. And so we need duality to understand oneness. It's ultimately we're here. We're here to remember. Like, even that word, it's not just to remember, it's to remember, to realign with self, which is an extension. It's not even an extension of source, it is source. My thing to that guy was just saying, we can't read someone else's wisdom and call it our own because we didn't walk that path that person walked to reach that destination.
This was, right, I fully with you. This was just about the fact that we talked about spiritual exchange, places we used to have systems in place. Also within the Catholic Church, we used to have monasteries that were very spiritual. In the Orthodox, Orthodox still have it. There's still light. So we used to have a lot of structures, the Sufis, and there's still also light there. As most probably as a man, most likely, you could join and you have a worked out system, and people like you and me would have originally went and joined these kind of organizations, whatever would have worked the best for us. And there we had other men, and we could meet once a week, and we could talk about our faults, and we could share our things. And this stuff is more or less dissolving the way that we used to do it. And I was looking at the internet as a way like you and me are now connecting. Now we having the conversation.
Yes.
50 years ago, we would now have both like a black hoodie and be standing somewhere in the dark alley
Meeting in the
and
forest.
having this, most probably, and having this conversation. So this was all about the fact that I'm so
the accessibility.
Yes, I'm so interested why it's taken so long to form a chat group, place, a organization that is not connected to anything except people having these kind of conversations outside of a scheduled podcast meeting. But this is just what we had.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. I hear you loud and clear. I think that's part of the play.
I just should say, but I have a conversation with at least 3 times a week where people right now are building such platforms. I'm having like every week now a conversation, people individually building the platforms and ending up having just 10, 15 people. And then the next guy making a platform. So I'm just waiting. Maybe there will be the Facebook moment. One of all those many people will succeed and have but we are in this process where everybody is building a platform right now where such kind of exchange and conversations are supposed to happen.
No, not at all. Like, at the end of the day, I wanted to learn and have conversation with you as much as flapping my own gums as well. I'm just happy to have a contemplative, intriguing conversation.
Let me ask you another question that you can talk about, because maybe it's closer to your heart. I'm always very keen on the idea of, and that's why I'm having this comment. That's why I started this whole thing, this conversation today with you about these odd questions, is I'm a strong believer in there is time where you sit, meditate, contemplate, read books, and do all of this inner work. And then there should be time where you go out and tell the world, either through your actions of cleaning rivers or doing voluntary stuff, but also through conversations. So this inward, outward movement, I'm very fascinated. So how do you see this movement?
Yeah, I think it's a very natural way of life. I think there's no way to gather experience without action, but there's no way to contemplate experience without solitude or without reflection. And so it's no different than nature. Really, when the sun drops and the moon comes out, all the flowers close their buds, and when the sun comes up and the buds open and follow the sun, and everything seems to be that type of wave washing in and out of the ocean type process. And I think the more that we realize how much power there is of going in and being in stillness, because as you said, people are creating platforms to reconnect and create communities of awareness and such. And I think a part of the illusion is to keep, it's the construct, like society is, okay, make money, or get a job, make money, do this, and it's be busy, get stuff done and build your empire. But then what you end up finding is sometimes people get to a place where they're like, holy shit, I've just done like 50 years and I've got no idea who I am, what I'm about, what the hell just happened, and your world falls apart. But then we want to blame the construct or the matrix. But then I think from like consciousness perspective, it's all a part of the illusion. Like, it's not wrong. It's not right. It just is. It's there to, it's a level in a game. I think is it in Greek, the term play it means illusion, or the other way around. Like illusion means to play. And so I think that everything that exists, like I might say something a little bit controversial, and I don't mean it like disrespectfully. I just mean it in the sense of contemplation, where I think if we look at healing, for example, the term healing, the spiritual world is all about we need to heal and we need to release and let go. And it's like in one particular truthful illusion, that's true. But if everything is a program and everything is information, energy is information, and we are all projecting our reality with whatever we resonate with, then if we realize that if we change what it is that we resonate with, then we change our reality. So it's not necessarily, I think it's a quite human perspective to see life as a healing journey, more as it is that everything is information and we're alchemists and we're here to play within those illusions, thinking that it's reality, thinking that it's real, because if it wasn't real, we wouldn't care. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you have a scary dream or something like that. You wake up and you're like, oh, it's not important because it's just a dream. But we don't realize the information in that dream might connect to something that's playing out in our reality that's acting as information. I'm sure you've had guests and stuff. I mean, within a cult is just secret wisdom. Do you know, is a secret. And so you're talking with people who see angels, who are healers, who are academics. If absolutely everything exists is holding divine intelligence, and that intelligence is holding information, that information is, in one sense, light. It's sound, it's vibration, it's magnetism, it's whatever. And I think the part of the play of being the human experience is going from the place of thinking that everything is so real and I got to cling on to it, to realizing like when I have my eyes open, I see what I see, but when I have my eyes closed, I see everything. But someone will say, oh, I just see blackness. But it's imagination. Like, it just really starts to, I think, unravel itself into like limitlessness. What do you think?
I think we're exactly in the middle of this discussion right now. When you talk about my academics, that's basically what they are working with full speed to try to unravel, because the new generation of academics, they are much more open-minded than the guys we used to know. And they have a lot more, if it's quantum physics and this and that, they have so many more concepts that come closer to a world that you would imagine. And this question that you were talking about, if it's man-made or if it's spirit influenced, or is it downloading of information, the source and stuff like that. So yes, this is the good part right now, because I have guests who still believe in the physicality of things and the world, and there's nothing above, and this is the world, and we have to make it. And it has a huge appeal because we are ultimately really responsible for our actions, and we have to take complete control, and we have to do it. And as I said, the people who see angels, talk to angels and all of that, they're fascinating conversations. And it also could lead to a better world where we accept the oneness and we take responsibility for being part of an organism. But I had a wonderful person said yesterday, these people trying to make ants out of us. No, we are monkeys, and they want to make ants out of us, where we live in a collective and we are part of this collective, and every ant. So I thought it was very interesting to have this idea of making an ant out of us. So this is going on, and this is a very strong conversation. And there's also some people, very few, but some people who think maybe it's not this, maybe it's like a sandwich. And if I choose to be a monkey or an ant,
No, but and that's the thing. Enjoy a sandwich. And that's it. Oh, you lost an earphone.
Earbuds jumped out.
I think, like, I was just writing the other day, and I was thinking, like, what's that experiment where they have the slits in the wall and they let through light, and then it's like is it a slit?
Quantum physics. You mean historic, the camera obscura? You think those old 14th, 16th century experiments with light and pictures and how they flip and upside down? Or the experiments with the new ones with the quantum physics? Which one are you talking about?
I think the new ones where ultimately when not observed was different to being observed.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I was just playing within my own thoughts or whatever, and I think you can just, not that it hasn't been talked about.
I have to tell you, I just had 4 days ago a 1-hour conversation with a leading quantum physics person who tried to help me understand, and basically it sounded like this all the time.
It sounded like 28 hertz.
And I was all the time
smile and wave.
Yes, I see your point.
I think it's all... One line that I heard quite a while ago was, the person who can explain it the simplest understands it the best.
It's a good one.
Whether it's true or not, I'm not sure.
Mechanic professor.
It's true.
Whenever they start to explain the fractional structure of the Big Bang, this is when I personally, I'm just a humble podcaster.
I'm just a slice of cucumber.
Yeah. I'm a sandwich.
It's definitely an amazing conversation to be a part of, though. So enlightening.
It was quite mind-blowing on many levels, and the person is crazy famous, and he's one of the leading thinkers on Earth. It was mind-blowing.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been more mind-blowing, or maybe less, who knows? Yeah. But yeah, I was saying, like, taking that experiment, for example, when things aren't observed as opposed to when they are, they change their form. It's like our memory that stores reality. For example, when you go to walk into your bedroom at night, it's pitch black. It's only when the contemplation of, like, when giving thought to it, does it appear? Because it's not like everything is dark matter or light, but is it nothingness? And until observed, then becomes. Because what that contemplation becomes has everything to do with the perceiver observing. And so, like, in that sense, like with that experiment where when observed as to when not observed, I wonder if they had 1 million people observe it, would it be different? And so this is where the limitlessness of what is literally possible is so expansive that this is why we have infinity to play within it, because I feel that we continue to experience life in different forms and different ways infinite times over, because my finding thus far is why does existence exist? And I think I was listening to this one thing quite a while ago. It was 4.5 hours of the Kybalion and the 7 universal principles and such. And they were talking about, they had all these fantastic minds contemplating why existence would exist. And they found that each time something was suggested, they kept reducing it back to ego. So it can't be it. That can't be it. And I was just contemplating for a bit. And I think that everything is simple. It's just that our lack of understanding is what makes it complex. I'm certainly not saying I understand it, but I think that everything is simple because it only takes a mind to arrive there to realize it was always there. It just took someone who could see it to bring it to life.
First of all, it sounds like you should have made the interview, not me. Quantum physics, you sound like you're more equipped than I am. And basically, in a nutshell, so far away from what they said, this is a certain code or structure. Please do not ask me to explain it. That is there and is everywhere.
Yeah.
Every plant, it's with every cell, with every self-organizing structure. So there is certain universal reality or certain universal structure, which is in even how the stars are all over the place in the universe. It's frictional geometry, and it's within any plant or living organism on Earth, and especially, of course, in the water, in things like that. So there seems to be a universal pattern structure.
No, but who doesn't like a good sandwich, to be honest? So I was just having in listening to that, because it's always, if you don't have a community or whatever, then you tend to go searching for information as seekers. All of your listeners are doing the same thing. But in my listening to that and my just reflecting, because I think
this kind of a structure is evolving. It's not like a fixed thing. It's not like it's a mathematic formula, and that's like a universal formula. This is an evolving organism. So this is the universe is changing, and these realities are changing. So there is an interconnection. That's what you actually like to hear, because that was, so to say, that the main message, that this is evolving, connecting, and what we do has an effect on it, and again, to us. And that's actually, I think, something you would like to know.
No, yeah, 100%. And that's the thing, I think and that's the game fundamentally. I'm sure many of your listeners and yourself have played some form of computer game in your time. And when you become so good at that game, what do? You go back and revisit it, and you make everything as difficult as possible. You do everything as thorough as possible, as if it were, you just become so pedantic in such an artistic form because you desire to leave no stone unturned. And fundamentally, that's source. It wants to pretend itself so forgotten that it has to turn over every single atom in order to have a pathway of remembering itself, realigning with itself in order to actualize its completeness. And I think when I was contemplating that thing that I was listening to of why would existence have created itself? And I think it's just to share. Because as soon as anybody finds anything out that can help anyone in the most beautiful way, what do we desire to do? We desire to share it. If someone's doing something in a difficult manner and we can show in any way, shape or form, this will give you a better outcome. It will create a healthier outcome. It will create all of these different things. This is wisdom. This is experience. This is community. This is the sharing. And therefore, what do we do when we share? We express. We express what we have experienced, and we desire to help. We desire to, and to help is to love. To love is it, and that's where it takes care of itself, because it's like to love is to share, is to express. And so I think you can, when you keep following a path, I think eventually when you see the pattern is when it links back to itself and therefore shares itself within itself, for itself, as divine intelligence, just desiring to play within itself in all the ways possible. And like you said with one of your guests, the more that the individual pays attention to their own awareness and their own patterns and beliefs and all the rest, not only do they raise their own awareness, but do they tap into the collective unconscious and contribute to raising the collective's awareness, which also has to do with stars and planets and nature and everything else. And so therefore, I think that's where it becomes insanely magic. And as you said, why are there not the communities there for us to feel like we can just pop across to the neighbor and have this contemplation? And I think it's a part of that illusion. It's a part of that game to feel like I've got to hide because I don't feel accepted and I don't feel this. But it's like that in itself is we're all here to play different roles of different things. We can play it extremely physical. We can play it extremely emotional, which then manifests into the physical. We can play it energetic, which is, it's just endless.
I think this was a wonderful thing you said about sharing, and I think a lot of people now relating to it, because that's important to break it down. All of these thoughts, all of that inspiration, all of that reading, listening, all of it, we have to break it down to something that makes our life worth living, better living, or more loving, or more something that it has to bring a benefit, right, into life. But unfortunately, we're running short, and I knew it was going to be like a 3-hour recording with you, but unfortunately, we don't have a 3-hour recording because there's a Gardnerian friend waiting around the corner to be interviewed because you said magic. So this is going to talk about magic today as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think magic doesn't actually exist. I think it's the illusion that creates the illusion of magic. And once you understand the illusion, you realize it wasn't an illusion at all. So it's not magic. It's just understanding that actually creates the magic.
I have to be very careful here.
Yeah. Slippery slope.
Slippery slope, right. But we have a little bit time left just to let's make the best out of it. Did you say something about poetry? Did I read this correctly? Did you do poetry as well, or did I misread this?
Yeah, no, I write a whole lot, but I haven't done anything with it. It sits on my phone. It's just in my contemplation stack. But I guess I'm in the space of understanding that it's about sharing and expression and authenticity and all the rest. And I guess I'm trying to uncover those limits in me to be met, so I reach that place where I can express myself more and they can be reached. So I guess I'm still trying to unravel how I'm thinking that I can reach other eyes and ears, and any ideas on that?
Let's talk about this, because this is, I think that's the next step, because essentially we're having today a podcast like with any other guest listeners out there who they're searchers, they're seekers, they have thoughts like you, they listen to stuff to get inspired. So this is a great podcast. I'm so happy about it because this is it. Not everybody has a school or a niche or a business plan surrounding spirituality. Most of us are in it for the fun and for the exploration and the thinking and improving of life standards and stuff like that. So I'm so happy and thankful that you showed up, because ultimately you represent me and you represent the viewers and you represent us who, are not just crazy experts or quantum physics, thanks God.
Talking about cucumbers.
How I guess you meditate. Just tell us a little bit about the thing. Are you more into reading or more into practicals, drumming? Are you in nature? Are you going out there to connect? How is this manifesting? And do you think you're a better husband? Or do you think that are you still working in tiles, or you found different vocation now?
So I've actually only just finished that like a month ago because I reached a point where I felt like as much as it was serving me to get to where I feel is a part of my experience, I also feel like I needed to give myself the space to come back to me, because I felt like I was fighting in the trade to make money and pay bills and save and this and that and the rest. But I feel like I was also hiding within an industry that I don't enjoy. I happen to be good at it. I have got a good eye for detail. I get along easy with people and all the rest. But I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I'm not interested at all. But I think a few years ago, like maybe 5 years ago, I've always really enjoyed quotes and poetry and philosophy and such, but I really started getting into it maybe 6 years ago. And then I got to a point where I was like, I think I'm here to experience authenticity, just in my own personal 100-odd years. And the more that I read of someone else's, the more I dilute my own. And I don't want my perspectives to have already been lived. But I think within oneness, we all can meet the same perspectives anyway, but I want to seek them honestly. I don't want to take bits from here, take bits from there, from all these fantastic experts and then claim them as my own. I would like, because I think in unraveling that myself can bring that illumination to my awareness authentically. I do think that I'm here to share with the collective. I do think I'm here to play within the poetry of words and expression and the psyche and emotions and reality as such, but in a way that I don't think you can make it relatable if you haven't thoroughly met it. It's all well and good to talk about with the mind, like, okay, we can change everything with the mind and everything's mental, everything's holographic, so don't worry about it and it's okay. But if someone's having a really tough time, all the rest, they jump off a bridge, then it's all over. So it's okay, everything is mind, but we're still having a physical experience. And no one's coming to save you but you. And that's really scary because that's what we subconsciously stay away from, because we do all these coping mechanisms and such in order to buy affection or to buy attention, to buy love. But I think a part of the process is to not float off so far into the quantum physics realm, to understand it as much as people can, but also to bring that abundant knowledge back to earth metaphorically and to ground that into our vessels, into our psyches, into our cells, that then transmutes our experience, because it's our cellular memory is holding that information that we're here to alchemize. And as you said, I think you said earlier that there's a school of thought that it's about layers. It's real, it's not real, it's this, it's that. And I feel that is the case. It's absolutely everything. But I think if we float in one realm too much, we also disconnect from the nutrients that is the abundance of divine intelligence. And I think it's such a difficult, it's not difficult, it's just hard. It's hard to embody that awareness because we're always trying to get out of doing the work, because doing the work is to create change, and that's uncomfortable. And we are creatures of habit. We're creatures of prediction.
Exactly.
And I think the more that we can reach that friendship of what it actually is, it's that resistance to desire to love in a more abundant aspect.
Yes.
Because even fear, like everything, without sounding terribly 60s hippie-ish, I think fundamentally everything is love. Fear, its purpose is to lead you back to love. All of these things they're all to lead you back to the understanding, the comprehension, and therefore the embodiment of oneness. I almost feel like that's a bit of a full stop.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm trying always to put things in such a simple way. And I'm personally now teaching meditation for more than 30 years,
Awesome.
way more than 30 years. And I've just come to this very simple fact of conclusion. Some people are too much in their head, and some people, believe it or not, are too much in their feet. Try to be more in the stomach, so to say, and just become the sandwich. Then
I wouldn't be surprised. Have you got a tattoo of a sandwich on you somewhere? I swear to God, this is like your spirit. Most people say spirit animal, but I'd say spirit food is a sandwich.
I'm just these days thinking to inviting my friends to make a high tea party. That's why it's always spinning in my brain. I want to bring this people forgotten a good high tea. I want to bring it back.
I'll be there.
Exactly. We all want to be there and talk and in this social media world and share and laugh and things like that. And this is the good stuff. We have to bring it to the real. Whatever we learn from Mother Earth or whatever we learn from the universe, we just have to bring it to the real, because we live here now and we have a physical body. And yes, you can say this is just a shell. And I have guests who completely say, oh, this is just a random shell. It's all about the light and the experiences of the light. And yeah, okay, if this shell is gone, let's take the next shell. And who gives a damn for the damn shell? If that is the case, why do we need a shell?
Yeah.
So either we're here, and if we're here, then let's try to make the best out of it. And I also become, through this podcast, very much more than ever into let's go and clean the rivers. If there's a day in the community day where we can clean beside the road to pick up the trash, and we have to bring it into the real, and also trying to be a better husband, trying to be a better father, trying to be all of these things, because everything else, if I meditate, I'm not a better father about quantum physics, and I'm not a better lover. It was all worthless, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a form of dissociation there. So you're not practicing what you preach fundamentally in that aspect, which then is a disconnect in what you refer to as reality, but what you're embodying. You would say it's a protective mechanism of not what you're not willing to touch.
There you go. And this is becoming my main theme. This has become my mission. Let's just get real.
Just do it. What would you said that you've practiced meditation for many decades?
I'm teaching. That's a bit different. Practicing is much longer.
Yes. What would you suggest in order to be able to find the perceiver to reconnect with the stomach, as you said, the middle?
Honestly, I'm really very big on inviting friends over, having a barbecue. I think this is just the best thing you can do in terms of meditations, and just be real, be in communion, be with others, share, invite the neighbors unexpectedly, just pop over. I think we need communion more than anything in this time, in this world. We're losing connections. And this is because you talk about love, and I agree with you, because if meditation does not lead to love, yes, there's inward moment where you sit alone in the room and you're trying to feel the universe and you feel its warmness and love. And this is empowering and it's mind-blowing. But then go out there and hug someone. It gives you all of this light and love. Then go out and share it. You just can't keep it in yourself. It's not how it's supposed to work. Go and hug it and give it to someone else, and then you get more of it. It's an endless vessel. I'm very big on barbecue in that sense. And I just
love that.
Be jolly, as said. All right, before we're coming to deep end, because you asked me about your poetry, and I just quick wanted to share also this with you. First of all, I had an interesting guest from Australia. She's a woman, she's a writer, and she writes a lot of spiritual stuff, and she's starting to tell corporate spiritual stories. And I was like, what on earth is going on now? But creating even a consciousness of a collective through spiritual stories. And I thought, wow, how amazing it is that you get corporations to give you money, write like small fairy tales or stuff to create this oneness and so forth. And the other thing, also Australian, this is a man I'm going to interview these days, and I just know that he's building platforms. He's very focused on artificial intelligence, but he's trying to create through artificial intelligence with writers and stories, stuff for children to basically put more spiritual content. He want to build a spiritual media empire. They really seem to have funding, and they seem to be a big team of 12 computer programmers and stuff. So it's not a small story at all. And he wants to create spiritual content to flood the world, to flood the internet with message from the source. And I don't know how it's going to work out, but
that's interesting.
Yes, I just wanted to say, I think if you're into poetry, I think you're on the exactly right spot and right track. I think you couldn't have chosen a better place right now, because AI is just create a lot of rubbish, right? It's thousands of words. It's basically bullshit, bingo, rubbish stuff. It's not original. It's not good. And it's the same with digital photography. First, we had trillions and trillions and clicky, and it lowered the quality. And now slowly we have strong movements who again want painters and want sculptors and want the real deal and want real black and white photography, and is growing again in pricing if you look at the galleries. So I guess artificial intelligence will make us sooner again worship poets, because that's how.
No, yeah, 100%. I think the truth has such a beautiful way of shining through the continual illusion. Like you said, that the world is turning computerized, and they want computerized art, computerized photography, computerized stories and movies and such. But I think fundamentally there then creates that disconnect where then, say art, for example, you realize that the beauty to some degree is in the imperfection, which is perfect. That creates the perfection. And it's like we have that. I think there's many people who have said perhaps they feel that the human race is innately selfish. But I think that it goes the other way around. And I think that's the poetry in consciousness, is it takes the eye to see it. And that's very metaphorical. Not only is it the eye, but it's the self. It takes the eye to see the poetry within the art. It takes the eye to see the truth through the illusions, and to entrust that it's all truth leading to itself. And that imperfect experience, ironically, is perfect the whole way. It's just the lack of understanding along the way that doesn't see it until it's made it.
This is such a perfect ending. I have to destroy it because it's way too nice. I said it's so beautiful, and I should now stop the recording, and everybody would feel warm and fuzzy. And,
let's make a sandwich.
It's not a fuzzy day, my friends.
Okay.
Let me destroy this fuzziness and just say a couple of staccato things, because I just want to say crazy things. I said the other day to my wife, why don't you start a business writing with his birthday cards or invitation with calligraphy? Just so people can order handwritten calligraphy and send these invitations out, some posh people. I would say maybe somebody will hire you and say, here's my child, feel the spirit. Write him a little poem, write him a story, like a wish for the future of the child. Use your wisdom, use your spirit connection that you clearly have, and just write him a wish for his life. So I think you will find an amazing way. That is my listener to express this, to share this. I think people will so much be craving authenticity. If for hunger and thirst, like in the desert, for getting some authentic thought, like some real thought, written by hand maybe even, just because people will lose the ability to express this. People will lose the ability to look at their own child and express a wish to the future. They would just say, hey, Siri, what is my child supposed to become for profession? And then the Siri will say, according to the matrix of his search, YouTube, it looks like it would be a
computer
Christmas
analyst.
That's your kid. And I think you
100%.
Tapping into the spirit. You're feeling it. It wants to come out. And if your channel is poetry, then it's wonderful to respect it. And if you really are already reached a point where you understand your channel of expression, you're already so far on your path, because finding this channel of where the universe wants to express through you, this is the hardest part of the game.
I think in some way it's funny, like I have to, even the last few days, I feel like I have to take my own. One of the moments that I feel like my reality shifted a great deal was when I realized that, because I've always given a healthy perspective, even when I didn't realize where or know where it was coming from or had the experience to share it. But I came to a place where I found that I could give good advice to other people, but I couldn't take my own advice. I either stop sharing what I'm saying, because if it's not good enough for me, it shouldn't be good enough for everybody else. Or if it is good enough, then I need to practice what I preach and show up, because at the moment I'm hiding behind a shadow, and that shadow ironically holds light. It holds information, and as Jung says, no tree will touch the heavens without its roots dipping to hell. It's that whole expansive, you have to include everything to experience everything. And I think writing and then expressing that is a part of what I'm here to experience. But I feel it's funny, as you said, you're finding your way. I always say to people, the best thing about understanding that you're lost is it's the first step to being found. And so in such a shift in reality, my own experience, are you going to take your own words or what? And it's funny to have that contemplation in that moment where everything feels like it's changing, shifting, and falling apart. There's a line that I wrote a long time ago where I said, pain is like a blanket. It's heavy, but it keeps us warm. And the human psyche or the collective unconscious finds so much comfort and power in playing small, in hiding and making things heavy, like battling for who worked the hardest day, the longest day, the this, the that, who's made the most with the least, and all this stuff. We're always battling to keep ourselves small in some way, and that's so poetic. The shift in that awareness is how you create, or how you experience limitlessness, is through limitation.
Absolutely. Josh, thank you so very much. And I wish you, first of all, thank you so much for appearing to this podcast, because I think everyone can relate to these last sentences, that we all struggle, so afraid, and this is holding most of the audience, most likely, and myself and you and everybody. We're all afraid of our own shadows, and to talk to someone
Afraid of our own power, ultimately.
And that we're talking to someone who is in the process, in the precise moment with this cocoon. He wants to break through this cocoon. He's trying to get out of this and step the light, accept the light, and become an agent of light and the voice of light. This is, you almost say, please come back in a year from now, when you put the head out of it and started to publish the first book and things like that. So thank you so much for being with us in this very precise moment. And I hope you will give courage to many who listen to this conversation to do the same and to try the same. And I may use the sentence, which I really think is brilliant, that the heavy blanket that is keeping us warm, the pain, is a very, very beautiful sentence. I might use it as a title.
PhilippKobald.
I hope I see you again.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. It's honestly been fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you.